Episode 39, The Undeniable Proof. Oh? Mr. Berkeley was interested. The school had promised him $15,000 if he could catch the thief. Who? He asked. Alex. Kathy spat out the name. When Mr. Berkeley had talked about the stolen money earlier, a thought had occurred to her. Did Alex take the money? Alex used to be a poor loser who couldn't afford a decent meal, but lately everything had changed. He took Emma to a posh restaurant for a $1,000 meal and donated another $130,000 without hesitation. Is this something a loser like him could ever afford to do? Alex had said that he'd won $150,000 on the lottery, but he's already spent more than that. Where did he get the money? Kathy had not been able to figure it out. She thought, but now everything is clear. It must be Alex that stole Mr. Morgan's money. Ugh, Alex, you idiot. You were stupid enough to show off the stolen money in front of me. You've been enjoying yourself, haven't you? But just wait. This time I will ruin your reputation for good. Why do you think it's him? Do you have any evidence? Mr. Berkeley was still confused. Kathy sneered and told Mr. Berkeley about Alex's extravagant behavior the last few days. Mr. Berkeley, not only did Alex invite Emily to DeLuca's restaurant for a meal worth $1,000, but he also bought 6 or 7 items of expensive designer clothing for his girlfriend at the Autumn Beauty Boutique. That adds up to more than $10,000. And Alex also donated $130,000 to the Mountain Village charity. It's true, Mr. Berkeley responded after listening to her explanation. He was shocked. The total was over $140,000. How could that poor student Alex afford all that? But he didn't dare just take Kathy's word for it. He needed more proof. He immediately called Luke and Darren to see if they would corroborate her story. They both backed up what Kathy had said. Alex had spent well more than $100,000 in the last few days. Mr. Berkeley was now almost certain that Alex was the person who stole Mr. Morgan's money. Mr. Berkeley, let's hurry up and call the police to arrest him. Kathy's eyes flashed with viciousness. Don't worry, I'm taking this very seriously, Mr. Berkeley replied. He was an exceptional teacher and shrewd. He thought carefully for a few minutes and said, Let's go to the General Hospital first and speak with Mr. Morgan to find out exactly what happened. Once we have more evidence, I'll call the police. All right, let's go now, Kathy urged him. If the police spoke to Mr. Morgan before they did, they might arrest him. Mr. Berkeley drove the car quickly toward the hospital with Kathy in the passenger seat. Meanwhile, Debbie had been sitting beside Luke Morgan in his ward. Her face was tense with anxiety. Mr. Morgan, how can anyone be so evil to steal this money? And why would they frame you? She questioned. Debbie was fretting on Luke's behalf. She looked extremely worried. Luke, on the other hand, looked fairly relaxed. He seemed calm and composed in the blue and white hospital gown, although his face was still pale. He touched Debbie's face and smiled gently, comforting her like an older sibling. Debbie, don't worry about me. I'm sure we'll find out who did this. Seeing Debbie nod her head in confusion, Luke decided not to talk about these sad things with her. His gaze fell upon her clothes. Debbie, you and I have known each other for a long time, but I've never seen you as dressed as beautifully as you are today. Someone else bought me these clothes. Debbie lowered her head shyly. Someone else? It's a man, isn't it? Luke asked with a playful tone. Debbie blushed as she softly replied, Mm-hmm. Luke said, Little Debbie has grown up. Seeing you looking so happy, I can tell that you and your boyfriend have something really special. He held Debbie's small hand. And to be able to afford to buy you clothes from Autumn Beauty, it seems that this young guy must be doing well for himself. He continued, Debbie, since you two like each other, you must take good care of each other. Do you understand? I know. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Debbie's eyes were filled with determination. At that moment, the door to the ward was pushed open. Kathy and Mr. Berkeley walked in. Why are you here? Kathy frowned and asked when she saw Debbie. "Who's this girl?" Mr. Berkeley asked. "She's Alex's new girlfriend," Kathy replied as she crossed her arms and looked at Debbie with a cold smile. She continued, "I know what she's here for. I bet she's here to find out Mr. Morgan's secrets so she can report back to Alex." "That's right, this girl is determined to help Alex in his crime," Mr. Berkeley agreed. "What are you talking about?" asked Luke. "What crime? Did you find out who it was?" He was completely confused. "Mr. Morgan, do you know who stole your $350,000? It was Alex Ambrose from our class." As she said this, Kathy started to feel exhilarated. "Alex Ambrose? That's impossible. He's not that kind of person." Luke shook his head. He knew Alex was poor, but he was sure he would never do such a thing. Kathy replied, "Mr. Morgan, don't be fooled by him. Do you know how much he donated to a charity? $130,000. How do you think Alex could come up with that kind of money?" When Kathy finished, Mr. Berkeley backed her up. "That's right, I've already asked the school for confirmation. Alex donated $130,000 today." "And?" Kathy's sharp gaze shot toward Debbie. "She's Alex's new girlfriend. Look at her new clothes from Autumn Beauty. And that's not the only one. She's got loads of new clothes. They must have spent a few $1,000s there. Where do you think he got all this money from?" "No, you're framing Alex," Debbie interjected. "You would never do something like that." She looked at Kathy and Mr. Berkeley. Luke looked at Debbie and asked, "Debbie, is Alex your new boyfriend? And did he buy you these expensive clothes?" He was anxious. If Alex had bought Debbie's new clothes, then he had to wonder where the money had come from. "Go on, tell us. Are you really in love with Alex? Deny it if you have the guts," Kathy said and smiled smugly. "Yes," Debbie answered, and she nodded toward Luke. Luke closed his eyes and leaned weakly against the back of his bed. "Ha! Mr. Morgan finally believes it," Kathy laughed loudly. She looked at Debbie with eyes full of venom as she pulled out her cell phone. "I'm calling the police now so they can arrest both of you two criminals. You'll be going to jail." Debbie was furious. Why is Kathy always looking for trouble with Alex? She asked herself. I'm convinced Alex didn't do anything wrong. Kathy had already tapped 911. Just as she was about to press the call button, Luke spoke up. "Don't call the police." "Mr. Morgan, you..." Debbie stuttered. Luke interrupted her. "I still believe Alex and Debbie. Plus, there's no evidence that Alex took my bank card and stole my money." In Luke's eyes, Alex and Debbie were two very honest students, and he just couldn't believe that they would do that. "Mr. Morgan, try to calm down," Mr. Berkeley advised. "Kathy and I came here tonight to ask you in detail about how you lost the money. Please tell us what happened." Luke replied, "I keep my bank card inside the protective cover of my phone, and the PIN is written in my notebook. Yesterday I couldn't find my phone, so I immediately went to the bank to freeze my account, and that's when I found out that the money had been stolen." Debbie's heart lifted when she heard him saying that he had lost his phone. She thought, I bet it was the phone that I found in the grass by the lake earlier. Subconsciously, she touched her pocket. Her action was noticed by the sharp-eyed Kathy. "What do you have in there?" Kathy asked, and she reached into Debbie's pocket. Ignoring her protests, she took out the phone. Seeing the phone in Kathy's hand, Luke's eyes widened. "Why is my phone in your pocket?" he asked Debbie. Debbie was so nervous that she didn't know what to say. "Mr. Morgan, listen to me. I found this phone in the grass." Kathy retorted, "You're still denying it. If you found the phone, why were you so afraid of us seeing it?" Kathy pressed her. "What do you have to say now? We've caught you with Mr. Morgan's phone. This is solid proof. You and Alex are in on this together." "No, we're not. You guys are making a mistake," Debbie said helplessly. Right now, she didn't know what she could say to convince them. "I'm making a mistake? What a joke," Kathy laughed arrogantly. "Then where do you think Alex got the money from? Why don't you tell us how you got this phone?" Alex's family has money. His family are rich." Debbie tried her best to explain, but she couldn't stand up to Kathy. "All right, Kathy, don't push her anymore." Luke hugged Debbie to his chest with a pained heart. "All right, I'll leave her alone for now." Kathy glanced at Debbie with disdain. "Now that one of the criminals has been caught, the other criminal will be even easier to find. Let's get back to school to find Alex." "All right," Mr. Berkeley agreed. Before he left, he called his class monitor and told him to get some of Debbie's friends to come to the hospital so that she wouldn't leave. Mr. Berkeley and Kathy drove back to the school as quickly as they could. During this time, Alex had sneaked into Mr. Morgan's office without being seen. He quietly walked to the teacher's desk and stuffed the written note inside the title page of a book on the desk. Just as he was turning to leave, the door opened, and Kathy and Mr. Berkeley walked in. Alex was as shocked as they were. He had not expected to be discovered. "Luckily we checked the monitor, or we would have missed him," Kathy sneered as she looked at Alex. "Let me see what this scoundrel is doing." Mr. Berkeley walked to Mr. Morgan's desk and started leafing through the book. "Crap," thought Alex, and his chest tightened. He watched as Mr. Berkeley pulled out the note he had stuffed inside the book. "What's this?" Mr. Berkeley opened the note and read aloud, "Mr. Morgan, I'm sorry. I'm the thief that took your money."